Hello, crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana episode. In this video, I'm creating with the Simons Says Stamp Blissful Bouquet stamp set to make a birthday card. It's been a long time since I stamped a custom floral pattern, so I thought it was time I revisited this amazing technique. The stamp set features beautiful flowers along with different types of foliage, some flower buds, and more. Lots of great elements to create a floral arrangement, a bouquet, or just dress up your handmade cards with pretty florals. Because I will be stamping an overlapping pattern, meaning the elements will overlap, I need to create some masks for my images. I used to hate doing this. I used to hate masking, yet it lets you do so much more with your stamps. So here I have a roll of masking paper. I don't think this is sold anymore. I've had it in my stash for many years. You can use any other masking paper. I know Simons Says Stamp has some masking paper in sheets, so you can use that, whatever you have in your stash. I'm stamping some of the images that I plan to use for my background in black ink. It doesn't matter that my stamping isn't perfect. I just need to have a good enough image to see where the image outline is so that I can cut it out. I'm stamping 2 of the flowers. I already have a basic idea of my card design in my head, and I know that I will need to mask 2 flowers at a time to do some of the stamping that I want to do. Next, I used my scissors and I cut the masks out. This is the most time-consuming task or time-consuming part after the coloring, of course, but you can reuse these masks several times, not indefinitely, of course, because they are paper masks. And I store mine on a clear acetate that the stamp set comes with once I'm done using them. You want to make sure to cut your masks right up to the edge, so do not leave any white border, just right up to the stamped edge. And I even sometimes cut into the edge. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, especially here where this stamp set has, a wide image outline. It's very thick. On the other sets where the outline is thinner, I will probably be more careful when cutting it out. Okay, next I grabbed my mini MISTI stamping tool. The large MISTI would have probably worked better here, but I have misplaced mine. I have been looking for it all over my craft room for more than a month now, and guess what? I finally cleaned my craft room, and that's when I found it on a pile of new products. Of course, that happened after I had finished this video, so here I was using the mini MISTI. I have a panel of Neenah Solar White cardstock. This is 80 pound, and it is cut to the standard size, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and it will make the front of my card. Like I mentioned, I have a general idea of what I want to do. I want the large flower stamped 3 times onto this background. I want each impression to be partial, meaning the flower goes outside the edge of the panel every time. And each flower goes outside the edge of the panel more and more. This gives an illusion that it is a continuous pattern, that this is cut from a larger sheet of paper. So the large flower is the anchor point of this card. So I'll have 3 anchor points, and each flower has elements coming from behind of it. I'm adding leaves, I'm adding foliage, and I'm also adding the little blooming clusters. I kept most of the stamping process for you to show you how I was building this pattern and how I was positioning the elements and how I was planning the placement. You can see that I did use both of the flower masks here as I added the elements under both flowers. The more masks you have, the more complex your pattern can be because you can layer and layer elements. As in real life, the floral arrangements, they're not flat. They are dimensional. There are flowers and leaves in the foreground and flowers and leaves in the background, and elements are layered. So you can see just parts of some elements and parts of other elements, and that is what makes the pattern unique and what makes it interesting to look at. So the more masks you have, the easier, I guess not the easier, the more complex your pattern can be. And also, if you have a mask for every single image, you can also mask the whole pattern and then just do something to your background, perhaps like do some word stamping in the background. I don't typically do that because that's way too much work for me. I try to keep my cards on the simpler side, but you can do that if you want. Okay, let's remove the masking paper and reveal the background. Isn't that beautiful? I think all of that mask work was absolutely worth it. So I have a beautiful pattern, lots of flowers, lots of greenery, and it is simply stunning. Next, we need to color this, and here you can do whatever you want. Color using your favorite medium, use your favorite coloring technique. I wanted to do some flick style coloring using my Copic markers. I find it easy to do. It doesn't require any blending, and I quite like using it for florals. When I was doing my stamping, I made sure to use the proper type of ink to then color the image with alcohol markers. So that's something you will need to consider. If you want to watercolor your image, make sure you use the proper type of ink. Now, I like to do my coloring the following way. I first apply the lightest ink color onto a petal. For this card, the lightest is the RV00 marker. Now, I don't just fill the shape in, I add the color by flicking it onto the petal. Sometimes I do cover the entire petal, so I basically just saturate the petal with the lightest color, but not always. It depends on the shape that I'm coloring. If I can do flicking, I will flick the color, as that will give me a more interesting result in the end. Next, I use my darkest color. In this case, this is the RV14, and I use it to add shadows and folds onto my petal. This helps create dimension on the image, and I typically follow the black stamped lines, or I try to envision where the petal folds would be. Next, I come in with a medium color. This is the RV13, and I add more color. This would be the main petal color. And again, I flick it onto the petal. So we have our highlight color, we have our shadow color, and we have our main petal color. I sometimes bring an additional color. Here, I brought in the RV11, so 4 colors in total, but you can get the same look with just 3 colors. In the past, when I did these types of cards, I would typically use the same color for all flowers, but now I try to do different color for each. So I have a pink flower, and I'll color the next one orange, and the last one will be colored peach. For the orange flower, I'm using YR00, YR04, and YR07. So the YR00 is the highlight color, the YR07 is the shadow color, and the YR04 is the actual petal color. I do the exact same type of coloring here. I'm showing you just how I color one petal, as the rest of the coloring is the same. My last flower, the peach one, is colored using E000, E00, and E02. Now, these colors don't have as much color variation between them as I would have hoped, as I would have liked. So you don't see the highlights and the shadows as prominently here. A darker color would have worked better for the shadow layer, but I don't have a color like that, so I used what I had in my stash. Next, the leaves were colored in the exact same way, simply using greens. I used G99, G94, and YG03. Here, I started by adding the shadow layer first, then added the main color, and only after that applied the highlight color. So I did not start with a highlight color. And that's what I do. Sometimes I will start with a highlight color. Other times I will start with a shadow color, whatever makes sense to me for that particular image. This pattern also has some small flowers, and I decided to color those red. I used R39, R24, R05, and R20. I probably could have used just 3 colors or maybe even 2 colors here, since these flowers are so small, but I couldn't decide on the colors. I couldn't decide on the color combo. So that's why I used so many, because I kept changing my mind. Whenever I do a pattern like this, I love to have it sit on a dark, bold background. Because if we look at a bouquet, if we look at flowers in nature, the background is never white. There is some other color present in the background. It can be a color of the sky. It can be color of the grass. It can be the color of the wall or anything else, and it is not white. So here I use an Olo marker. This color is BG 7.3 to color the background. I opted to use Olo, as my Olo markers are super juicy compared to my Copic markers, and that makes them ideal to use for backgrounds where I have a lot of room, where I need to apply a lot of marker color. With the coloring done, I adhered my background to an A2 card base, and then I added a simple birthday sentiment using the stamp set. using the stamp from the Elegantly Modern Greetings stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I stamped the large birthday in black ink, and then I just cut it out using a coordinating die, and next added a small wishes for you sub-sentiment. So the sentiment reads, birthday wishes for you. I used my trusty T-square ruler to adhere the elements, the sentiment, straight onto my card, and I love the result. I love the simplicity. Finally, I added a touch of sequins, and these are the Spellbinders Aura sequins, and that finished my card. So here's a look at the card I have for you today. Thanks so much for spending time with me. I hope you'll give this idea a try. If you do, you know the drill. Please share online and tag us on social media. We always enjoy seeing what you make. Thanks so much for spending your time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.
I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.